across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, I honestly think it's time for the viewers and listeners on this channel to relax, because for the next 2 hours, myself and I'm joined by Pete Barnes are going to be actually talking some sense in the weight of stupidity that we have seen in the rest of the media about the attack on the synagogue in Manchester today. We have a British Prime Minister who's taken to the airwaves to say that we should be concerned about protecting refugees in the light of this attack. And we've also heard that Jewish people are still unsafe in Britain. Still unsafe in Britain? No. Britain used to be a refuge, and now they're unsafe in Britain. And once again, we've seen a group of people have to fend off a dangerous jihadi with their bare hands. I'm going to tell you, a good friend of mine that I used to drink with in the House of Commons, Keith Palmer, he attempted to fight off a terrorist when the House of Commons was attacked, and for, 40 glorious seconds, he took on somebody with a machete until he died himself. He was a firearms expert who was expected to defend a royal palace without a proper weapon. Similarly, tonight, the CST, what is it called? The Community Safety Trust, those Jewish volunteers who protect synagogues, are out once again unarmed in the face of jihadis pouring into the country in unprecedented numbers. Once again, we've seen the whole of this cabal of lefties. Well, are we going to sing Don't Look Back in Anger again? This is garbage. We are importing foreign terrorists to Britain. Thank you to the Greater Manchester Police for not saying this was a British national, saying this is a British national of Syrian descent. Whether he was born in the UK or whether he was born in Syria makes no difference. This is somebody whose culture is a culture of hate, whose belief is absolute bile and should not be in this country at all. Look, I'm going to say this to you. I don't care where you're born. If you are a 7th century fascist, go back to whichever dump you crawled out of. That is the reality of what we should be saying tonight. Instead of all of this rubbish, oh, don't look back in anger. We've heard it all before. It's absolute nonsense. Tonight, I want to ask a simple question. Is it time that we should be allowed to arm ourselves? In this country, a pepper spray is illegal, a taser is illegal, a handgun is illegal, and anything else, of course, is very, very, very illegal indeed. Even buying a little air pistol and having it by your bed just in case somebody comes in, if you've bought it for the purposes of self-defence, once again, is illegal. Look, when we allow all of these people to come into the country, when we don't check who's coming in, when the Islamic State, when Hezbollah, when Hamas, when the Iranians are able to put battalion after battalion of terrorists onto our streets, having 5 or 6 armed police officers in a van close by city centres is not going to cut the mustard. We have to live in the real world. Just as I've said to you before, we can't have both uncontrolled immigration and free healthcare. We can't have uncontrolled immigration and be unable to defend ourselves. I don't want people wandering around with pepper sprays. I don't want people running around with tasers. I don't want people running around with handguns. But that is the world we live in. If we do not legalise pepper sprays now, we will see more people dying. The CST were guarding the synagogue that was attacked today. They could have stepped forward with handguns and killed the terrorist themselves. Well done to the police for getting there, but it did still take 6 minutes. 6 minutes is a long time. Keith Palmer discovered that at the gates of Westminster with a man who had machetes strapped to his hands with gaffer tape. You try and defeat that with your bare fists, even if you are an ex-soldier of some repute. Can't be done. We have to talk now about arming the country, and we also have to talk about arming private sector security. I think it should be the situation, at the very least, that when you go into a bank, when you go into a synagogue that the person that is an accredited security officer there should be allowed to be armed. It's not the world that I wish to live in. I imagine it's not the world that Pete Barnes wishes to live in. However, Pete, my question to you is, has this become necessary?
I think the conversation is now right on the front of the agenda. It has to be, because we cannot guarantee the safety. Like you said, 6-7 minutes is a very long time.
Yes.
And God knows what could have happened. Thanks to this organisation that do look after the not just synagogues, but Jewish schools as well, which not too long ago were under threat of a bomb going off in one just here in London. I mean, at what point do we take anti-Semitism seriously? This is the main crux of the issue. That our environment has been primed to discredit anti-Semitism, as far as I'm concerned, because of one simple phrase: and all other forms of hate. Every single time an incident of anti-Semitism happened, it was, we've got to talk about Islamophobia, we've got to talk about this, you've got to mention everything. And what that did was it watered down the attacks, it watered down the hatred. And it made it just something else. Oh, it's just a small incident. It's not a big problem.
The message is Britain is a generically racist country, and that's why this attack took place today.
Yes.
There is no specific problem with radical Islam.
Yeah, that's true. And I go back to what the Israeli foreign minister, he's written an open letter, Gideon Sa'ar, his name is, to the king, and he basically says that the UK has become overrun and rampant with anti-Semitism, and I completely agree with him. This issue has been on the rise for so long now, and what has annoyed me today, really, I've watched quite a lot of the coverage, and across every mainstream channel, all they've focused on is since the Israel-Gaza situation kicked off.
Yes.
I'd remind people that this has been on the rise long before that started.
Well,
it is absolutely infuriating to watch it being all just kind of boxed off as, it's because of this.
Pete, I think we need to remind people. And just because, if you watch all the media, if you listen to people, what came first, September the 11th or the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan? Because we are continually told that all the hatred that we hear in the world is because of Afghanistan and Iraq. The attack on the World Trade Center, which was the second one, happened before.
Yeah.
It precipitated the attack on Afghanistan. And what is happening here is that there are a group of terrorists who are not only attacking us, but giving a sob story in which we should feel sorry for them because, oh, it's so awful they became terrorists. You know what I think? They were right with Osama bin Laden. Shoot him and stick him in the sea.
Yeah.
You know what I'd have done? I'd have fed him to the pigs to be additionally offensive to him.
Yeah, I have to admit, I've started to come around to this opinion as well, because what we're also seeing is useful idiots, as the Soviet Union used to call them, continue this narrative and spread it. But I mean, we had the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, Sir Mark Rowley, said that, things like from the river to the sea needed context. The waving a Nazi flag needed context. Yet, this is the same police force that arrested and questioned a guy who held up a poster at a counter-protest to these hate marches that we've had with a picture of a Hezbollah terrorist on it, saying it was when they kind of had that the pages all blow up and all the rest of it. You know, this guy was questioned, saying, did you think you might offend somebody? He was mocking a terrorist, and the police were concerned about the feelings of people supporting a terrorist. When you ask, oh my God, how could this happen? This is how it happens. People in authority did not stamp it out. They academicked it away.
But here's the other question that I've got about Syrian refugees. So, there was a survey that I saw about Syrian refugees. 70% of them believe that homosexuality should be illegal in Britain. Only 55% believe it should be the death penalty. And then I asked friends of mine, okay, when the gay community, I know it's not the gay community under attack, but it's just one example. When the gay community gets told, we have to put these people up in our country, what if they just say, no, we don't?
Yeah.
Right. So there are Jewish people. Always remember. These lot on the front page of the Express, right? These lot will all be on benefits. So the Jewish community in Manchester will be paying for their housing, paying for their schooling, paying for their... Do you remember Mohammed Enwazi, Jihadi John?
Yeah.
He went into the family business. His dad was a terrorist who was kicked out of Kuwait. And then he gets his education. He gets his university. He gets a council house worth £1 million. They get benefits for all this. And so we are literally paying for these people to come here and shoot us.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And this is why I said to you just before we started that the word I hate at the moment is solidarity.
Oh,
it is an
God.
excuse. Stop sending prayers and wishes and do something. The migrant crisis may not have directly caused this, but again, it has primed the environment. I also would look at the fact that the Labour Party itself has primed this environment. I don't want to make this party political, but we are sitting with a Prime Minister leader who had disappeared during the anti-Semitism crisis in his own party for political gain, and not to mention that we're now looking at the fact that the charity that looks after synagogues and Jewish faith schools received less money than mosques, the same organisation that looks after mosques and Islamic faith schools. Somebody's going to have to explain to me why that is the case when the cases of anti-Semitism were rising.
Well, I can
why
tell
is
you the
one?
reason.
Yeah,
I can tell you know the
obvious.
reason.
Yeah,
The reason is it's the Neil Basuization of terror policing. Neil Basu's principal aim was to demonstrate that there was no unique problem with Islamic fascism, and that is why he manufactured these allegations of far-right terrorism. I remember when Greg Hands was actually a Conservative and he was the MP for Hammersmith and Fulham. I mean, he was a socialist later, wasn't he? But anyway, on the day of the September, on the day of the 7/7 attacks, he got a phone call and his borough commander said the first thing: "We want to assure you, Mr. Hands, that we've sent additional patrol cars to protect the mosques." It was an Islamic jihadi blowing up people on the tube. But, of course, what the police want to be able to say is, well, everybody's at risk.
Yeah, that's
Look,
the thing.
let me just tell you, there will be no terrorist attack on a mosque.
No.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And the reason is because the terror problem in Britain is an Islamic terror problem, and therefore there is not going to be a Jewish terrorist attacking a mosque. It's just not going to happen.
I mean,
now we can sit here and all pretend.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when they go. You know, they start off, I mean, they don't do it now after Axel Rudy Cabana just figuratively blew up in their face. But what they would have done is they'd have gone, oh, we're very concerned about the mental health of this problem. It's not thought to have been linked to international matters. Right, that's what they would have said.
Yeah, this is what I mean by academic it away. They kind of explain it away. Rather than tackling the core issue, they don't want to actually put words to it. Because once they do that and they've admitted that there's a problem, then we say, well, why is there a problem? They've enabled the problem. That's why they don't do it. But I would remind people that, like, let's look at the Manchester, the incident where it was the guy who punched the police officer in the face in Manchester.
Yeah, Manchester.
As soon as that happened, there was a mob outside.
Yeah.
Where's that? Where this has happened? I mean, outside Downing Street, hours after this incident, we had the pro-Palestinian law outside complaining about Greta Thunberg. There was absolutely nothing. The same people who say they are so concerned about communities under attack and under threat are silent tonight. And I think that is disgraceful.
The police, always remember, the police were notified that Palestine Solidarity or the Palestine Solidarity Campaign were going to campaign against the genocide in Gaza before the 7th of October attack had completed. There were still terrorists running around in Israel. Israel had done nothing, including hadn't even completed defending the country. But the Palestine Solidarity Campaign had already arranged a protest and were already turning up.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's this kind of, well, I'm just attacking Israel, I'm criticising Israel. That is being used as a mask. And I find it fascinating today to watch so many people suddenly realise that this is a problem. I'm like, we have been screaming about these people, these anti-Semites, hiding behind the criticism of Israel to just spread anti-Jew hate. It's watching the realisation hit them in the face has been entertaining but horrific at the same time.
Now, can I beg Muslim viewers and Muslim listeners to do us a big favour? Don't send out a 1,000-year-old spokesman with all the expert gear on to stand outside a synagogue, stand outside a mosque saying this is very embarrassing for Islam. Because, let me tell you, that plays badly.
Yes.
What you have to say is, we deplore terrorism and this man should be hurled in the sea like Osama bin Laden because he's not getting a funeral from any of us. Do not get that, because you saw it in Manchester. Saw it in Manchester.
Yeah.
This is very embarrassing for Islam.
And this is a big point that was made by one of the Jewish organisations in Manchester. He's saying, he didn't name it specifically, he said there's a lot of organisations who haven't come out to defend us. And I thought that was very telling, isn't it? That, you know, if this was an attack, say, on a mosque or in a Muslim community, everybody who is even critical of immigration a little bit would be made to apologise.
Yes.
And yet, the moment this has happened, we need context, we need clarification. Everything is remarkably different in the reporting of this.
Pete, I often apologise for being repetitious. In fact, they have this bingo game in the gallery I've told you so many times, we all laugh. And apologies to viewers and listeners who've heard it before, but it's important to remind ourselves, we all laugh at the Owen Jones, you don't understand because you're not gay, when he was debating with Julia Hartley-Brewer, but we forget the context of that. And the context was that he was trying to say that a man who ran into a gay nightclub in America shouting Allah Akbar and machine gunning the customers was symptomatic of homophobia in America.
I know.
And had nothing to do with uncontrolled immigration.
Yeah, it is ridiculous, but we are now seeing, and we have had so many dark days. I'm rather sick of the phrase because I'm sick of having dark days. They are simply because the leaders of this country refuse to tackle the core problem, and that is when you import a culture into ours that is not compatible, this is what happens. We interviewed a lady I watched today, and she'd lived in Israel. She'd been through air raid silence, bomb shelters. She wasn't terrified. She's now terrified to live in Britain. In what world is that possible? And it is only possible because of the people in charge have neglected communities in favour of another one.
But there is a subtext here, Pete. Oh, come on, they've done it in Gaza. This is a minor incident. Now, my argument is, and I've said this before, do you know, I was talking about Transnistria the other day, right? They're having a war over Transnistria. Someday someone will lose and have to keep it, right? You know, the reality is, if you want a big pile of sand in the Middle East, knock yourself out. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right? Get your sand castles, get your sand pits. This sand pit, this lump of worthless old sand used to be ours. Oh, keep it. Just don't come here and make me bother about it.
Yeah.
Because as far as I'm concerned, the fundamental problem in the Middle East is it's a backward shithole. That's the fundamental problem, right? Sure. The fact that somebody needs a bit of sand that somebody else has is not an issue. And I'm just sick of pretending that I should care.
Yeah, but I will go back to what the head of MI5 has said, is that this is the importation of the Middle East into the UK. Yes. And unfortunately, our politics is not grown up enough to tackle the issues that we're facing in this country, let alone in a different country.
Well,
and it is dividing people unnecessarily in rhetorics that are so dichotomous that it's ridiculous. It is crazy.
And by the way, if you use the word dichotomous again, I'll hurt.
Sorry.
Okay, we're not doing that, right? But I just what about this phrase that we have heard in Poland? In fact, why don't I throw it out to all of you, this phrase that we've heard in Poland, because this is the press preview, but obviously every front page it has got the same story on it. The phrase that Douglas Murray used, that people have said in Poland, not every Muslim is a terrorist, but every Muslim terrorist is a Muslim. And so when you import large numbers of people from the Islamic world, a percentage of them will be terrorists. And so you could always turn around and say, why do we need to bring them in to this country? And it's terrible. But you know what? 10% of British Muslims support the World Trade Center attack. Now, that might sound like a small number, but it's still 300,000, right? Which is a large number of people. As far as I'm concerned, when we were talking about the backward views of the Syrian people, my view is very, very simple. Oh, you can't leave them to be bombed by Assad. Oh, I can. Oh, you can't let them just stay there in all that poverty and filth. Yes, I really can. I'm perfectly capable of doing that, because the other option is that they come to Manchester and start knifing Jewish people in the streets, whilst on the social forcing me to pay for it. More next.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
This is the press preview with Andre Walker and Pete Barnes on the day, and indeed day after, depending on when you're listening and watching this, of the terror attack on Manchester. Look, I've been criticised in the past for my response to the Ariana Grande attack. I honestly thought that it was shameful to sing Don't Look Back in Anger, Hold Hands, Come By Our and Light Candles, when we had brought a dangerous terrorist into the country. We had not told his neighbours, and indeed not told his mosque, how dangerous he was. He had been given free housing, free healthcare, free social security, in order that he was able to dedicate his life full-time to plotting how to blow up a group of teenage girls at a concert. I think we should hang our head in shame, Pete.
I completely agree. I echo those sentiments. I actually thought this whole "Don't look back, everybody hold hands and sing Kumbaya," I think that is disrespectful to the people who were killed.
No.
I'm sorry, but at what point do we get in the fight? Because they are killing us.
Yeah.
They don't want us to live. And at what point do we grow up and start fighting back? I don't want physical violence, of course, but what I'm saying is we have to get in the game. And we have a government that is complicit in this because it is too weak and too craven wanting votes from this community. But what I would like to know is, where are the mosques in this? I have yet to see a single one come out and condemn this.
No.
Because let's not forget, they're inviting people to give these speeches and to give talks who hold radical views.
Explain the Friday after Friday prayers talk thing and why we're angry about it.
Yeah, so basically what the mosques do is they invite an imam or they invite a speaker in, and they usually tend to have quite radical views. And when I say radical, I mean they are homophobic, anti-Semitic and bigoted, and pick a word, they're that. And basically what the mosque does is say, well, we don't endorse the views, but we invite them anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Stop inviting them. And more importantly,
so what was it?
This is one point, because there was one that came here, he was given posters on the TfL. And because he's part of some kind of bank or something, because he's in the advert, this man said that homosexuals were that of farm animals, and we put him on posters in the TfL. Stop it. Then, when we got dead Jews, don't cry foul.
Mind you, to be honest with you, I'd rather spend time with farm animals than some of these lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, I just want, Pete, for you to tell me what you think would happen if my church invited Nick Griffin, the former leader of the BNP, to speak after Sunday Mass. Oh
my God, you'd be run out of town. You'd be run out of the country. It'd be easier to deport you than half the people that shouldn't be here. Yeah. That is the kind of reaction, and the kind of sinister nature of our society now is that we are so easy to condemn one thing, but we tiptoe around something else, and it is so wrong, and it is the reason these incidences are becoming more and more common. We've got to stop this, and it is our society that is priming the environment for these people to do these acts. Because
just to remind the viewers and listeners, this is the press preview, but obviously every single front page has got the same story. I'm not criticising that, by the way, but look, obviously the Times mentions Yom Kippur. I think it's interesting to ask: is this deliberately on Yom Kippur, or do you think? I personally think the Yom Kippur element is neither here nor there. And I'll tell you why. Because I just think we're in danger all the time now.
Yes.
I mean, 25,000 people on the terror watch list.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it shouldn't be overblown, but it should be important, because you have to remember that Jews tend not to use technology until a certain time. So they will have then turned on the phones, turned on the TV, and this is what they've seen. It is the linking of Yom Kippur to a terrorist attack, and the way that will always be remembered for it. It is a way of poisoning their religious day. Yeah. I think that's why it's done. Let's not forget that October the 7th falls within the kind of the period. So that's what the 2-year anniversary in 2 days, 3 days?
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah, so that,
we're 5 days.
Yeah, 5 days away. So again, these things aren't accidents, but again, like you said, the communities are consistently under attack, but all of us are. This isn't just a Jewish problem. This is a problem for everybody, that our society and our country is not safe.
Interesting. Sadiq Khan today has dedicated his day to concerns about Islamophobia in the Met.
Oh, well.
And I have to say, I watched some of the videos of what these police officers who've been suspended had said, and they weren't actually, I mean, I didn't watch all of it, but they didn't seem that bad. They were saying, on too many occasions, we are pulling aside people who are from the Islamic world committing crime.
Yeah.
Well, if that's true, it's true.
Yeah.
You know, this radical Islam is poisoning the country. Well, that appears to be true as well,
yeah.
right? You know, and what we appear to have to do is, and this is the stupidity of all of it, just because the majority of Muslims do not want to commit a terror attack and are completely against it, we have to pretend that nobody...
Yeah.
With it, I mean,
It is the way that you are made to pretend.
Yeah.
That's the bit that I find most perverse about the way that they approach this. It's the way that I can see it, you can see it,
Yeah.
but I'm a bad person if I say it out loud. That has been driven into our society across a lot of issues.
But that was the subtext. That was the subtext in Southport
Yes.
with Axel Rudiker-Barner, where they said, we do not believe, whatever you want to call it, we do not believe somebody from an indigenous family who've been in this community for 200 yeans, we do not believe that any of those would have done it.
Yes.
And then the carefully worded statement.
Oh, this is why...
I mean, former choir boy means Islam convert,
Yes.
doesn't it, right?
Yeah.
Realistically. Born in Wales means migrant family,
Yeah.
right? And that's why it kicked off about Axel Rudiker-Barner.
Yeah.
And when it came about, what did we get? We got somebody whose family are from a country where there is a culture of attacking your opponents with machetes, which is precisely what he
Yeah.
did. And so when people said, we do not believe an ordinary person from Southport would do this, in the end, it was basically the only Rwandan who lived in Southport. So the only person from a country with a machete culture. Of course he's the guy who did it. Of course it is.
Yeah, I go back to what Ann Coulter said in America. It was after an incident, I think it was on an army base, and you know, they hadn't released the information as to who it was. And Ann Coulter said, I bet you any money it's a Muslim. And the person said, oh, you can't say that. I says, yes, I can, because you've just told me that.
Yeah.
The fact that you're trying to stop me saying something because it needs confirmation, needs all of these caveats put to it, is proof that it is a person from a different country that shouldn't be or should be here and all the rest of it. It is absolutely exhausting.
We would never. You and I, obviously, because you know I present regularly. You're a part-time presenter here and a good one at that. But so you and I know that we have a responsibility. So we can't just make stuff up and throw it out there. But it is frustrating when you sit in a chair like this and we go, we can't jump to conclusions, and you go, oh, just give it half an hour.
Yeah.
You know, let's be
that's
realistic.
So the one I go back to is the Clapham acid attack. I don't even remember. And the fact that the police said this guy is dangerous, this person, you should not approach him. They didn't tell you anything about it.
That's right.
I was like, are you kidding me? That you're saying this person is a threat to public safety, but you won't tell me what he looks like.
Right.
I wonder why.
I've seen, and you see it loads of times where they go, the police are appealing for information. You go, you've not said what he looks like, what he sounds like, what he's anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when they had that. Who was that? Philip Lawrence. Philip Lawrence, the school teacher who's murdered by a triad gang.
Yeah.
And they'd actually got the guys to look upwards in the official photos, so you couldn't tell they were Chinese.
Yeah.
Right? If you look for the photos of people that killed Philip Lawrence, they've literally got them to deliberately pose, so you can't tell the Chinese.
Oh, my Lord, that's ridiculous. But again, it speaks of a kind of a society and of those in power who don't trust the public because as though we can't be trusted with that information because of what might happen.
Yes.
Well, the more you don't trust something, the more that distrust grows, but in both directions. So that means that the public don't trust the people in charge anymore, and because of that, we're seeing the breakdown across the board.
There we go.
This is how you end up with the situation.
There is, Pete. I'll pass the phone. The official photo released by the police of the killer of Philip. I mean, that is just extraordinary.
That is extraordinary. I encourage everybody to Google that.
Nobody does a mugshot in which the person was that in the picture. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the front page of Times, and they're interested in the fact that it's Yom Kippur. I think we're in danger. Do you know what we should do? Why don't we go to another break? But then I want to ask about whether Pete actually thinks that what's happened here is on the lower end of what we were fearing. More next.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
By the way, obviously, front page of the Daily Mail, and Little John says he was an Islamic terrorist. I mean, look, I'm just going to throw this out there. If you name your child Jihad al-Shamik, right, I mean, what on earth, right? What doesn't that translate for? Religious war the sham?
Pretty much,
right? Isn't that basically what that means?
Yeah, but you have to remember, as again the Metropolitan Commissioner said, the Met Police Commissioner Smart Riley said that all this needs context. But isn't it funny that, you know, things that, you know, that it's a certain language from the river to the sea and all this suddenly needs context, but yet if it's something against another community, it's a straight out hate crime. My big problem is the language is being used.
If I named my child Crusader, right, this is little Crusader. Oh God, it sounds bad. That this is little Jihad. I mean, come on.
I know. Yeah, I completely agree with you.
By the way, the integration of the concepts of jihad into the Quran doesn't bother me, because obviously it was a time of war and strife, right? So if you want to fight, but it's the fact you believe you need a jihad now.
Yes,
that is the concern.
That's the bigger concern. But I know you were asking me just before the break then about, do I think this is like a kind of lesser thing than we were expecting? I'm going to say yes. Yeah. Because this could have been worse. The guy, it looks like, from what's been reported, had a kind of fake bomb strapped to him, and a kind of like one of these kind of improvised devices, which, you know, this is why he was shot, because of something that could have gone much worse. But again, when you listen to the kind of the experts in this area, they said a lot of them were saying the Jewish community have been waiting for this.
Oh, of course.
They have been sat terrified and waiting, and you know, this is one of the reasons that this charity, they manage this fund of about £18 million, which I think is nowhere near amount of money that they need to make sure that these places are safe. It is unbelievable.
Pete, on the front page of the Daily Express, they've got the dead terrorist. Now, as you know, my only view is the only good terrorist is a dead terrorist. I've no problem with them, and frankly, the ones that survive, I would just string them up. Yeah. Right? But okay, fine, fair enough. Or maybe do to them what they. I mean, an eye for an eye. Machete his face. But anyway, I watched the video of Charlie Kirk being killed, as many people did, and it appears that we've decided not to take that down because Charlie Kirk would not have wanted.
That's true.
Should we, on this channel, be showing the video of what this attacker did that's circulating on the internet?
Right. Okay.
Because I just
I've been thinking about this for some time, actually, and for me, yes. Because the public needs to be confronted with what is happening. Yeah. The reason I go back to when after the liberation of Auschwitz and the camps, we didn't destroy the camps because we needed to see it. Yes. We needed to see what humanity was capable of, and I think it's the same with these videos. We need to see the threat, because it's been too it's too happens to other people, if you know what I mean. If we've not been able to kind of make it happen here in Britain, despite the 7/7 attacks, despite all the things that have happened, it seems somewhat in the past. It happens in other countries. We need to see that these events are happening now, that communities are under terror threats now, and our security and police need criticism and support and all the rest of it now. And unfortunately, we need the shock, we need the gore, and I don't like using these instances to push messages or whatever, but we have to have it. We've got to be grown-ups for a change and have the conversation.
Well, I repeat what I said earlier in the day. Why can't the CST guarding synagogues have machine guns?
At this point, it might be for their own protection. Like, they're going to need them. I think this is not the first. I think there will be more.
To be fair, we know what would happen in Britain. What would happen is the Metropolitan Police would order 500 machine guns, give 2 to the Jewish guys, and give 498 to people protecting mosques. Yeah. Going, look, we need, and some of those will be fruity, believe me.
Yeah, but this is the inevitable conversation we'll end up having is, well, what about Islamophobia? What about this? What about... For once, can we please stick to dealing with the anti-Semitism crisis, that we have to stick to an issue. Our society is so distracted, and we keep thinking that noise about in one area is the same as another.
I'll tell you what I'm going to say about Islamophobia. Hey, listen, when you've completed the task of kicking the extremists out of your mosque, I'll venerate your mosque for kicking out extremists. Yeah. What you're doing at the moment is you're saying we are passively standing by and allowing this to happen. The government is encouraging immigration from the third world, and then we have to apologise to you because after one of your gang has killed someone, people noticed they were dead.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah, so these people, so it's 2 other people and a woman have also been arrested for further investigation to look into whether they've incited it and whether they've helped fund it and all the rest of it. But I don't believe that they just woke up one day and have done this.
No.
So where's prevent? So they've said it wasn't known to prevent. Why weren't they known to prevent? I don't believe that this person has just kept these views to themselves. They very rarely do. So why weren't they reported? This is the point where we're saying that certain communities have to step up and start kicking these people out.
If this had been a Jewish attack on a mosque, we would have had Lucy Conley type people, wouldn't we?
Oh, yeah.
The police would be right now going through Twitter, going through Facebook, going through what little of WhatsApp they can see, and that's debatable how much they can see, to find Jewish or Christian people to lock up for inciting it. Will that happen with the Muslim community? I don't think incitement is what. But
again, if you're going to have it for one, you've got to have it for all. I don't think there won't be dawn raids. Put it that way.
Yeah, because what worries me now, after this Neil Basu, who's now retired, the Met's #1 aim will be to ensure they round up enough Christian terrorists, far-right terrorists, so they can even out the numbers.
Yes, that's an inevitability. And yet again, the useful idiots will be wheeled out into the mainstream media to start pushing the narrative of, well, what about Islamophobia? You will start to see the slow change in conversation, in language, and how it is all forms of hate. I can't stress this enough, that phrase is the biggest threat to the Jewish community because it waters this down.
Keir Starmer concerned about that. I mean, what he said. I mean, I didn't watch all of it because I turned it off because I thought, you know what, it's just garbage.
Yeah.
Oh, I should have watched it. It was part of my job to watch it in reality, thinking about it. But basically said, Jewish people came here as refugees after the war. Well, do you know what? Many didn't.
Yes.
But, okay, fine. And the issue here is that Britain needs to be a safe haven for refugees. Right. Can we just be clear? The people who are killing Jews are the refugees. It's not all of them, but you know, Muslim families that have been here 300 years, and they're not involved. They're not involved.
Yeah, right? But again, we have evidence from our security services that this has been, that the migrant crisis has been deliberately agitated to get these kind of people into the UK. We have the evidence. Why isn't this a national security crisis? And therefore, you know, we stop it. This is the bit that we really have to get a very straight answer from the government, from all political parties, because we have the evidence. This has been allowed to happen by somebody who wasn't born here. How? Why? How is this happening again and again and again, and yet we just allow it to happen? It is because, in my opinion, the government will not tackle it head on because they don't want to offend it because of the religious aspect.
Jihadi John, his family were terrorists. It was the family business that he went into. And I thought it was disgraceful. You're watching him hack the head off American journalists and others. And we're having to say, oh, one of ours, what a boy.
Yeah.
You know, he went to, what was it, Quintin Kynaston School
like that,
in Westminster. £1 million flat. Can you imagine? Can you imagine going to Kuwait and saying, hey, I'm a British terrorist. Me and my penniless children want to live in downtown Kuwait City. Can you give me £1 million flat? What do you think they're going to say?
Of course, it's crazy to me. But the coverage today of this event has just been so nauseating. It's all been hopes and prayers and we've got to all come together. No, be angry. Yes. Be angry and demand change. This isn't a hold hands and come by our moment. This is do something, because we are all under threat. It's not just a Jewish thing. It is everybody, because we've imported a culture that doesn't like us. And it's not that they don't want us to live side by side. They don't want us to exist. And until we get that into our heads, everybody is under threat. Sending your kids to school might suddenly be an act of courage, and for the Jewish community, it already is. How we are living in Britain, how Britain has become that, saddens me.
Well, there we go. I mean, those two ladies there, or girls, I don't know quite the age, they don't look very happy on the front page of the Daily Telegraph, and they don't feel like they're safe in this country. And to say, I mean, do them two look like refugees that are being insufficiently protected? Or do they look like people who are British nationals under attack from, and I'm sorry, in part a barbarian horde?
Yep. There's no other way to describe what has happened. And, you know, people could say, oh, you're being mean and you're making broad generalizations. I don't care anymore.
But when people talk about Islam, when they talk about Pakistan, when they talk about all these places, we're not getting the good ones, right?
No.
Can I tell you, people in the Pakistani Senate do not travel to France in the back of a lorry and then swim the channel, right? It's those ones don't, right? What you are doing is you're picking the people with no skills. You're picking the people with criminal records. You're picking the lowest of the low, the worst of the worst. And there is an experiment. Can you improve a Western society by bringing the worst, most backward, poorly educated and poor people of the world and sticking them on benefits? The answer is no. We can feel ourselves. We're getting culturally, morally and financially poorer.
Yeah, we cannot stress the financial element of this. It is draining this country's resources beyond belief. You know, you could blame
70% of Somalian men have never had a job in Britain. They're not the consultant. Can I tell you the number of NHS consultants who have blown up a dinghy and sailed across the channel? Zero. None. Number of nurses that come in the back of a wagon? Zero. None. It doesn't happen.
But yet again, I will bet you any money that this event will be somehow linked to the need for a digital ID. What we're actually going to see now is yet another clampdown on everybody's freedoms because this government won't do what is necessary.
I couldn't believe it when I discovered that the people who run the gangs bringing people into the country were so in favour of the digital ID because it's actually an app on your phone. You can hack the details and propagate them to other people.
Pretty much, and
so they're in favour of it because it will make it easier.
Yeah, of course it will. I mean, the fact that people are so suddenly surprised by, you know, once you put all information in a centrally located place, it makes it easier to copy and easy to get access to. The funniest thing about the digital ID, which nobody's really talked about, is on the same week that Jaguar Land Rover had a cyber attack that nearly crippled the entire company, they launched the digital ID. I'm sorry, you can't, you know, a top-end company can't even protect itself. How is the British government going to do it?
My mate was sacked from the Corsham cybersecurity base because they needed to spend £1 billion rehousing Afghans in Britain. And they took the budget out of cybersecurity. And it was a cybersecurity leak that started the whole thing.
Oh, my God. But that just doesn't surprise me. It's Britain in 2025.
OK, we're going to be coming back when we're going to look at the front page of the Daily Star. Back in a moment.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, why don't I say that this is the press preview with Andre Walker and Pete Barnes, but we're not going to bring in Pete for a second because we are going to read out some of your messages very, very quickly. Pamela has said, hi, Andre and Peter. I'm starting to worry now. Watching Dan earlier, he said that Alex, I don't know which Dan, that Alex had been given information from independent media sources that the West is going to be targeted all December to include kidnapping as well as attacks on churches and transportation. Well, Pete, we are in the public eye. We are very, very low down the list. But, I mean, we're not going to be able to protect ourselves. It would be illegal for me to protect myself from a jihadi. So there we have it. Obviously, downstairs, the guys haven't got guns.
Yeah.
Although, you'd have to take a battery run to that door. Let's not give away the security features of this building. But I will tell you, an attack on this building...
If anything, I'd be impressed more than...
An attack on this building wouldn't work. But anyway, but on the serious note, you know, these are the sort of targets that people go for. Sarah in Belfast said, it's actually a big deal that the terror attack struck on Yom Kippur. October the 7th occurred on the Feast of Tabernacles and was called by Hamas and Hezbollah the Al-Aqsa Flood. Al-Aqsa means Temple Mount. It's certainly significant. By the way, Al-Aqsa doesn't mean Temple Mount. Al-Aqsa means the furthest mosque away in the Quran. And I'll tell you something that people don't realise. Al-Aqsa is not in Jerusalem. It's just not. What happened was, because the Jews had left the temple, there was a guy who just sold it to the Muslim community and went, this is Al-Aqsa. It's actually, in truth, within Islamic scripture, it doesn't say where Al-Aqsa Mosque is. But one of the things that is almost certain is it is not in Jerusalem. So that mosque they built there is just not, it's just in the wrong place.
Oh, that I didn't know.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, it's the tradition, because they'd been searching for where the furthest mosque away was. Yeah. And then somebody went, why don't we just stick it in Jerusalem? We find that.
Yeah.
We find that. Okay, so let's go on to some others. If this was, Ali says this, if this was the other way around, Muslims would be in a full riot all over Britain tonight.
That I agree with. I also would like to point out that where's the BBC? Let's not forget this.
Don't look back in anger.
Yeah, but let's not forget they won't condemn a prescribed terrorist organisation. No. They had Gary Lineker still employed, sending out all these kind of text messages that tweets and things that included the rat emoji, which is a long-known Jewish trope. You know, yet they had 300 staff refuse to work and walk out because they wouldn't be more critical of Israel.
Do you know what they should do? I'll tell you what they should do. They should get Owen Jones, Gary Lineker, the Director General of the BBC, all of these people, Yasmin Alibi-Brown, and they should force them to attend the autopsy of the dead.
Yes.
Right, just like they did in the Holocaust.
Oh,
right?
I don't disagree with this. I actually think they should be on their hands and knees apologising.
Just say no. But you have to come. You have to come and watch what these people have done not on your instruction, but because you have wound them up. Because what Lineker has basically said to the world is that it is correct. The assertion is correct that Islam takes priority. What is most important, the most important issue for Britain now should be whatever the issue is for Muslims.
Yes, without a doubt, and that is why.
I mean, but do you know what we predicted on this show when they're going £40 million worth of arms exports to Israel? I said there will be an engineering company in Lancashire that makes bolts for a plane.
Yeah.
Right. And in the end, it turned out the F-35 program, that F-35s I don't think are even being used in Gaza, but one of the bolts on one of the wheels is made in Britain, and therefore we're aiding a genocide.
Oh my lord!
But it's a bolt.
Interestingly, on the fact of genocide, we have a Home Secretary who abstained on the on a vote to do with the arms sales to Israel. So I'm sorry. How can the Home Secretary, when she wasn't then but she is now, sit on this issue and not give an opinion? I think it is shameful that this government has sided multiple times against Israel.
Right. And what about this? Right. This one's fruity.
Oh, here we go.
I'm going to read it anyway. It's from Andrew in Salisbury. He says, great debate. Do you think that the word Islamophobe is actually just a different word for infidel?
Oh.
That essentially, if you oppose the Islamification of Britain, you are an infidel, and we will castigate you for that.
I have always said that the way that the kind of the wokeists and the leftists react is of a religious fervour.
Yes.
That it's not just they disagree with you; it is the moralising. It is the you're a bad person. That is very, very similar in the way that, you know, radical Islam treats non-Islamic people. I have to admit there is something in that, in the reactions and the way that they approach the situation, I will say.
Okay, so brother Darren from Essex says that we're letting in-fighting-age men that are getting terror cells together and will eventually turn on us. And then he makes a joke about Freemasonry,
there we go.
which I won't bother. Which I won't bother reading out. But this is the question here, and this is the front page of the Daily Star. Let's just ask this question, Pete.
Yeah.
What I always say, the IRA's great innovation was to create the cell structure. So effectively, if you were in an IRA cell, you and me, the cell next door would not know we were in the cell, and that makes it quite hard to penetrate.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you have grasses, you need people on the Army Council. Al Qaeda comes along. And what they do is, by the use of the internet, they ensure that not even Osama bin Laden knows who the cells are. He doesn't know who they really are because they're cloaked by internet anonymity. What these lot are doing on the front page of the Daily Star is they are disseminating information in a way that ensures that people can mount these attacks on their own.
Yes.
Now, if you think about it, the difference between an extremist and a different violent extremist, there's 25,000 people on the terror watch list who would love to commit a terrorist attack. But what you then have to do is assess whether they're dreamers or whether they can do it. Now, I will tell you, getting Semtex into Britain and knowing how to use it is incredibly difficult. And even if you were to try as a normal person, you would fail very, very quickly. Even to get hold of it, let alone get it in the country. So you need to be a third degree of technical knowledge, bent border officials, dodgy boats.
There's a lot of
stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff. Getting a Kalashnikov into Britain. Sure, you can buy a Kalashnikov in Kyrgyzstan, but it's quite hard to get it to Britain. Right. What these lot do is say, don't bother with any of that, hire a car and get a knife. Now, hiring a car and getting a knife and having no cell structure at all. So the problem you've got now, these people are coming into the country. They don't need assistance. All they need is an internet connection to download the training manuals for terrorists, which are easily available. I've read one. Just to be clear, I didn't break the law. I read the redacted version that the United States Congress put out. But you download the manual, you follow the instructions, kaboom, done. Sorry, not kaboom. Because don't get Semtex, they'll catch you.
This is the real threat that we face. Is it could be anybody at any time,
without that.
That's why I consistently say we are all under this threat, because, like you said, it is this lone wolf mentality that, you know, they're not part of this great overarching structure. They don't even have to be part of an organisation. That's why they are Islamic and kind of encourage, or like they.
Well, Al Qaeda means the base.
Yes,
because basically they didn't even have. I did want to remind you, sorry, for the Daily Telegraph. Sorry, because all the front pages have the same story. Pete, I did want to ask you about Israel blaming Keir Starmer for the attack.
Oh, I think they're 100% correct. I think this country has become rampant with anti-Semitism. It has spread through the government, through political institutions, and through the people that run them. When you actually listen to what Netanyahu is saying, is that they have failed to stamp out instances and come down hard when it has happened. They have, what I've said, it's all other forms of hate. They have academicked it away. They've explained it away.
Do they need it? Do they? I mean, look.
Well, let's not forget. Not too long ago, a guy was shot in New York. Sorry, it was either New York. I kind of apologise. I can't remember where it was, but you know, for the same reason, because it was to do with the anti-Semitism attack. But yet again, what the media did, was said it's to do with the war.
Labour MPs are worried that they will lose elections if they call out terrorists. Right now, we've already worked out a couple of things. Oh, by the way. I just want to remind you of what happened at Finsbury Park Mosque. The one mosque in the country where the moderates kicked out the extremists, we shut the street so Abu Hamza could keep preaching. So I think legitimately Muslims can watch this show and say, well, when we have tried to do something, you don't care. But the reality is, an attack on a radical Islamist is seen as a more general attack on every Muslim. Therefore, Labour don't do it.
I think you're right. You know, I think it is... I really don't know how to phrase it, because for me, Starmer's not an anti-Semite. It's that he doesn't give it parity. And what I mean by that is he doesn't see the attacks on the Jewish community as that significant compared to other instances.
By the way, how about this? Our good friends at the Daily Mirror describe the terrorist as a maniac.
Oh, yeah.
Not a jihadi.
Not a jihadi. Not an Islamic radical.
His name is Jihad.
Yeah.
The clue was in the title.
But this is the point. This is why I keep saying that our environment has been primed for this, because of articles like that, because we don't call it out. We don't use the words to describe these people. We like you said, how long before we talk about this guy's mental health?
Oh,
it's coming. You know it's coming. And yet we continue to allow it to happen.
We've had it before today, Pete, where people have gone in and gone, the reason I killed these people is because I'm a supporter of the Islamic State, and the police go, British national arrested over mental health incidents.
Yes.
And you go, he's literally unbelievable. Okay, if you are listening in the morning on Friday, Mike Graham is coming up. Obviously, going to be a huge show today because of everything that's happened. Me and Pete will be with you again sometime soon. And if you are listening on Thursday night, Pete, I always give this final minute for your kind of final thoughts on the day, because look, at the end of the day, terrorists will be terrorists, bad people will be bad people. I maintain why they're in this country, and why are we doing the don't look back in anger, and why is the stupidity of the media what it is?
I think it is. I think it's cowardice. Yeah. I think it is cowardice to confront a...
You think the BBC know these Iranians?
I think they know it. I think everybody knows it, but they don't want to admit it because they don't want to be the bad person. And unfortunately, we have to start calling things for what they are, but otherwise we're going to end up with more dead Jews and more dead people in general, because you are not being the grown-ups and actually tackling the issues.
And I also hope that when we see the people celebrating this attack on British streets, we will show those videos as well, because believe me, there will be parties going on. Your calls are coming up just in a couple of moments. Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk. Well, it is no longer Yom Kippur, a day that should be a day of celebration and peace for the Jewish community in Britain. I'm not a great expert on Judaism, but I know that people have all got together, which is why Asher Gould is not here tonight, by the way. He's celebrating with his family somewhere. Presumably, he's turned his phone off, which is what I think they tend to do. This is your opportunity to talk. We've been through all this. You've listened to the media today talk garbage. I'm saying that Britain now should be more armed than it was before. I don't think you can bring, 25,000 jihadis to the country and then leave yourself unguarded. I would like ordinary people to have probably pepper sprays, which actually would be enough to get rid of troublesome people without harming them long term. Georgina is in London. Georgina, you're on Talk.
Good morning, Andre. Good morning, Pete.
Peter's gone.
Oh, right. Well, what?
He only does 1 hour, Pete.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, what happened today is beyond horrific, and it's sickening to the stomach. I think of every decent person in Britain. Every decent person. This is terrible. The first rule of government, Andre, is to protect the country and the people within the country.
Yes.
This is what happens when the government allows hatred from other countries to permeate our shores unchecked. This is how powerful hate speech, whether it comes from political bodies or members of the general population, can be. Hate speech is highly dangerous.
Yes.
This government has got to stop making excuses and finally...
Why can't we say that in Syria... people are generally pretty anti-Semitic. It's a backward dump, and people who have backward dump views should stay there.
Well, I agree. I agree with every word you're saying. And the government's got to stop making these excuses and finally accept things for what they are, Andre. And that is that cultural cohesion is not working.
No, hang on a second, Georgina. I want to stop you there because
Go on.
This is deliberate, though. I mean, Pete Barnes made this point to me ages ago. Look, if you look at the concept of multiculturalism, the concept is that you come to a country, you don't learn the language, you don't adopt the culture, you don't adopt the religion, you don't adopt the national dress. What happens instead is that your neighbours are required to accommodate you turning their area into your own country, if you like. That is what we have done in this country for decades. We have said to people, come over from Pakistan and make Britain more Pakistani. What we should be saying is, if you think Pakistan is great, stay in Pakistan. If you think it's not great, come to Britain.
Right, we have got people coming over here, Andre, who hate everything that our country stands for. People who will only be happy when they have changed our beautiful country into everything that they came here. They stated they wanted to escape from.
Yes.
And they want to change it. And this can no longer be allowed. Like I said before, this government's got to stop.
I mean, I've said it before. The only one thing I want to learn from the Somali culture is not to copy it. I mean, that's it. That's my only one lesson. That's the only one bit because you've got people rubbing each other out in unprecedented numbers. Let me tell you a fact. All of this knife crime culture on the streets of Britain did not happen until there was mass immigration from countries where knife crime and machete culture is part of their tradition. That is cultural enrichment.
Andre, we as a country are regressing.
Yes.
We're not progressing. We are going from a country that is going forward and doing wonderful things to regressing.
By the way, everyone, shall we have our little quiz question that we've done before? What is the #1 holiday destination of people after they have been granted indefinite leave to remain in Britain, having come here as refugees or asylum seekers? The answer is whichever country they applied from. That's right.
Absolutely.
So what you do is you come from Eritrea and say, I need to escape Eritrea because I will be killed if I go back. And when you get your British indefinite leave to remain, the first thing you do is go on holiday there.
Well, you know what? I would take away the right for those people to come back. And the fact that this government hasn't done that, I think...
Hey, do you know what, Georgina? That's a brilliant idea. What we could do is we could go through the records and we could say, right, every single person that has claimed asylum or refugee status from their country of origin, who then went on holiday afterwards, is getting their citizenship revoked. Not because we don't like you, but because you've proved that it's safe to go back now.
Well, the thing is, they've come here to escape, they say, terrorism. They've come here to escape torture. They've come here because there is war in their country, and they're terrified to go back. Well, if that be the case, if they go back, they are no longer terrified.
Yes.
And we should be taking away their right to come here.
By the way, there is one news report that you will not see in most of the media, and it's this. You know how we keep saying that Islam is growing in countries? Well, Islam is also shrinking in other countries. Believe it or not, last month, because it's the beginning of the month, last month, Albania became the first country, I think, in history to cease to be majority Muslim. So many Albanian Muslims have come to Western Europe that actually it is no longer a majority Muslim country.
This is disgraceful. Can I just say something to you, Andre?
Yes.
We in the past have fought tooth and nail to preserve our country. I love my country, Andre. We fought for its safety and for the safety of our population, whatever the nationality, my darling, or religion. Our country was a safe haven.
Yes.
And we've done that only to watch prior governments and present government force us to take the enemy within.
Yes.
You know, this attack today is beyond terrifying. This attack is a look into the future of our country.
Well, that's inevitable, isn't it? Because there's this idea that when you mix lots of people from lots of cultures, lots of races together, and you guarantee that they maintain their own cultural identity, the result will be racial tensions. Now, you might say, oh my God, that's very negative. We can't have racial tensions when there's no diversity, right? It's just not possible.
No, it's not possible. But this used to be a safe country, Andre. And there's no place within our country for anti-Semitism, nor is there a place in our country for anti-Zionism. But the lack of governance to control this vile behaviour within our country is now spilling over into our streets. And places of worship are no longer safe. This frightens me. When people go to worship in their religious houses...
No, let's be clear, mosques are safe.
Well...
I mean, look, when they said they'd found bombs outside mosques, I mean, not really. No, it's not really. But somebody had put, a slice of bacon on the handle of a mosque door, and you go, oh, come on. It's not exactly the worst terrorist attack we've seen, is it?
No, well, it isn't the worst terrorist attack. And what I want to see, Andre, and people might scream from the rooftops when I say this, I want to see the heads of these mosques come forth and denounce these people for what they have done. We need to see that. We need to see that the heads of these mosques are saying, we do not agree. We are not hand in hand with these people. These people...
Why won't they do it?
I don't know whether they don't want to do it, whether they feel like they are being disloyal to their faith. Remember, the Muslim faith and Islam, that comes first before anything else.
Yes, we have a very Western concept, don't we, of a separation of church and state. We have an idea that you will have a religious life and you will have a business life. Islam is an approach to life more than a religion, and therefore you can't delineate Islam from normal life.
There's no delineation between Islam and their life. Islam is their life. Islam, they love death more than they love life. They will put their children up for martyrdom, their own children. When you have got a religion or a culture that will put their own child as a martyr, then you have got a serious problem.
But we've got a really serious problem is that if you look in the Middle East, because the Middle East is the home of Islam, it was where it was codified. They are very, very used to dealing with extremists, and they know what to do with them. In Britain, we just say, well, they're all right, really. Abu Hamza's not that bad.
Sharp intake of breath. Are you being serious? There is no place in our country for any kind of radical fanaticalism at all.
Do you know what they did with Abu Hamza, by the way? First thing when the Americans extradited him, those hooks came off. You know how he said he had the right to the hooks? No. I've been told that what they've done, and bear in mind, this is a man who has supported terrorism his entire life. That's his business, being a terrorist. They've stuck plastic spoons to his arms instead so he can use them. And apparently he's very upset about it. Oh, play the world's smallest violin. I don't care.
Well, neither do I. I care not. But I'll tell you something. England is no longer a safe haven, Andre, for either the indigenous people or populations that have settled here over numerous generations to enjoy life without fear or the terror of attack.
I want to ask you this question. If I don't know whether Mr. Al-Shami was born in Britain or not, but what would be your message to parents who have come here from a war-torn country and when they have a child born in Britain wish to name them Jihad?
I would say that wasn't a very clever thing to do. I would
say it demonstrates you ought not to be in Britain, bluntly.
Well, I would say to these people, if they do not share the values of our country, if they do not share the values of the safety that we hold dear in this country, then they need go back from whence they came because they are not welcome.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a major problem with saying some people should not be here. So as an example, I look at, I look at the tribal areas of the Congo, right, and think, you know what? I wouldn't fit in there. That's not the place where I should live. Similarly, I don't want to live in Iran because I like a drink, right? So I think it's perfectly possible to say that Iran for the Iranians, Pakistan for the Pakistanis, and England for the English.
Well, to be honest with you, Islam is not coming to Britain to integrate. They are coming here to take over. There's a big difference, and we need to get this as a fact. People need to start waking up in this country.
Well, and the stupidity, Georgina, is that... Look, Islam is an evangelical religion. It believes that the Prophet Muhammad and the Quran is the completion of our move from, if you like, heathenism to being faithful. It believes that every Jew and Christian should, in the end, convert to Islam, or they call it revert because they believe you were born a Muslim. But equally, that's why you're people of the book, because basically you're on the journey to becoming a Muslim. And therefore, it's just it's implicit within Islam that it is the aim of Islam to convert everybody. That's just what it is. And therefore, to say that's some sort of conspiracy theory is madness.
Well, this is a contradiction in term. If Islam is supposed to be the religion of peace and harmony and tranquility, why on earth, with every other religion on this planet, has Islam got a problem? Why do we have people who are Islamic going to mosques, running people over and stabbing them? Why do we have all these problems within the realms of our country? We don't need this. We don't need people coming over here with the problems from their own country and bringing them and infecting our country with it. We don't need this, Andre. And honestly, we have, as a country, I mean, I'm not a young person, but I've had enough.
Yep.
This has got to stop. And this government needs to sit back, take stock, and do something about it.
OK, but Georgina, I'm going to leave it there simply because that was our first call. Look, some of you may have an alternative view. And by the way, if any of you want to offer a defence of Somalian culture, you are welcome to get in touch. But I remain strongly of the view that there are some people whose culture, whose beliefs and whose practices ought to just remain in whichever country they come from. I think that there are some people who are capable of being international, and there's some people who should remain local. At the end of the day, I wouldn't fit in Kazakhstan, right? Because I don't know the language, I don't know the culture, and I don't intend to join the religion. Similarly, if I went to Beijing and attempted to be a Chinese citizen, would that work out? And I just don't understand why that's a controversial or racist or shocking thing to say. But has Islam given anything positive to Britain. I mean, it has to be said that an awful lot of money is raised for charity. Similarly, a great number of people believe that it makes them a better person. If you're one of those people, please feel free to get in touch, because I'll tell you what we're doing. We're attacking the radicals. We have absolutely no beef. I hate that word. We have absolutely no objection on this channel or on my show to good, honest, ordinary tax-paying people, whether they be trans, whether they be Christian, whether they be Muslim, whether they be Hindu, Sikh, or anything like that. But what we're calling out is the bad guys. And today, or in the media, thank God somebody did. More next. Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk. By the way, I've not seen you since there was a cover-up of a terrorist attack in Manchester, which I want to mention something about. It's on my YouTube channel, which you can get on at youtube.com/Andre Walker. How about this one? Khalid Saeed, 31, was convicted at Manchester Crown Court of a public nuisance. Public nuisance. Here's what he did. He took butane gas onto the Metro Link 3 times and with a gas mask attempted to attack members of the public with it. Lone wolf attack that wasn't very successful. He's only been convicted of a public nuisance for doing it, despite the fact that people were ill as a result. How many terror attacks, how many attempted terror attacks are we ignoring in this country? And by the way, I just want to say one thing about signals intelligence, just to remind you. The reason why so many terror trials fail and people are not convicted is this. The first rule of the British Intelligence Service is they never give away signals intelligence. That is, if they've hacked your phone, if they've hacked your computer, if they're listening to you illegally, spying on you or whatever, they will never tell you that or disclose that in court, because it means that the terrorists know what the technical specifications, or have at least some knowledge of the technical specifications of how the police are able to monitor you. Therefore, very often they know you're a terrorist, they know you're plotting an attack, but the actual evidence they can present in court will be limited. Now, I don't want to be unfair on this, but how do I say this really nicely? There have been cases of Irish terrorists where that was the reason they were later acquitted. Let's just say it like that. You know what I'm saying. OK, let's go to, is it Adi in Blackpool? Adi, you're on Talk.
Hi, Andre.
Hello.
Hi. Difficult one to follow from Georgina. She's usually a different class on Julia's show.
Yeah, I think, look, let's be clear. I don't think Georgina is going to join her local Lib Dem focus team anytime soon, is she?
No, she's fantastic. And a couple of things I wanted to say, and it's probably hopefully going up to some of the youngsters out there. Yep. I worked for a Jewish company for nearly 30 years.
Right.
and they were the most beautiful, amazing people. Gave money to charity out of their profits.
Yeah.
Fantastic people. Did everything for the local community and beyond. But I think what's important is I don't think the youngsters quite understand exactly what's going on, and you see them chanting this, that, and the other. If hypothetically, and it is hypothetically, if the Jewish people, great, brilliant people who can thrive and survive, moved elsewhere and went, right, go on then, you can have that, they'd follow them. That's all they want. They don't want.
Well, it's like, but I've asked this question before. So first of all, I've made clear I don't care what happens in the Middle East. It doesn't really bother me. I don't like to see anybody having a rough time of it, but I'm not going to spend my life panicking about the IDF's eradication of terrorists in Gaza. But it strikes me, you know what? Israel used to be the poorest country on earth when it was first found. Big load of sand with very little in it. And then basically the reason why people want Israel abolished is because Jews own it, right? It's tiny, load of old worthless sand, but it's not, I've made this point before, it's not the two-state solution. British Palestine was turned into two states, Israel and Jordan. It's the tri-state solution, which is to say that there are two states in Palestine, of Palestinians, if you like. One's Jordan and the other's Jewish, because obviously Israel, they're Palestinians as well, bluntly, as in they're from the territory of Palestine. So if we have a three-state solution, which is to have Israel, Jordan, and now the Palestinian Authority, will we need a quad-state solution where now they'll say, well, this bit needs to be a separate country? I mean, surely the solution, here's what I'd do if I was a Palestinian. I'd say, keep your sand, and move into Jordan. Yeah.
Definitely, and also for the youngsters, a bit of a throwback here. If you want to research, like apparently you do, research Christopher Hitchens, the late and great.
Yeah, I loved Christopher Hitchens. God is not great. Do you remember him? Do you remember him?
He saw things before they've even occurred.
Do you remember the debate about Jerry Falwell? He's an evil man, a demagogue, and it's a shame there's no hell for him to go to. That was absolutely superb. OK, AD, thank you so much. Look, I just want to be very clear on one thing. I don't want to sit here and say all Jews are marvellous, because some people are not marvellous within every group. However, what I do think we're doing that's different here is that we are deliberately bringing people into the country who hate our way of life, and that is a dangerous thing. OK. Oh, by the way, Sue's got in touch, who says, always remember that it's official that ethnic minorities are supposed to be given shorter sentences. Yes, there is two-tier policing. I will tell you, if Christians had gone out and attacked a mosque, there would be real problems. Ken in London. That's right, isn't it?
Andre, I and I'm sure everyone listening and watching appreciates your honesty in this situation.
Thank you.
We don't understand the situation, in my opinion. We don't really understand what is happening in our nation today. We are under a most dangerous threat from Islam. They have been reinforced daily from the Channel, from France. Young men, fit, strong men who are coming here for a purpose. In the future, when they gather together and the numbers get larger, there will be very big...
Why, Ken, I'm going to ask you an obvious question, but I think it's important to understand the answer. Just to explain to people, Ken is a guy that you might have seen. He comes out with a sandwich board. He's not a protester. He's somebody who just wants to spread the word of God, spread the word of Jesus Christ. Why would it be a problem for Britain to be a majority Muslim country? Why wouldn't that be fine?
Well, if Islam became the majority religion in this country, the first thing that Islam does when they come into a nation, once they take it over, is they burn down all the Christian churches, kill the pastors, kill the priests, kill the Christians. This is a known historical fact. But Islam hates Christianity. I'll tell you why. Because they believe that the Christians commit the greatest sin. It's called shirk, S-H-I-R-K, and that is to equate anybody as equal with God. And
right.
the Christian Bible teaches, the Jewish Bible teaches, that God is triune, consists of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and they are one true living
yes.
God. This is the greatest sin for the Muslims.
So of course, just to be clear, if I go back to my theology, we call Jesus the Son of God, but that's only because our human understanding is not as good. He's not good enough to fully understand, but he is simultaneously both a part of God, indivisible from God, and also the Son of God, all at the same time. But we humans can't really comprehend that, so it sounds a bit difficult to understand.
Good. That's very good, Andre. Yes, Jesus said, "From henceforth, if you have seen me, you have seen the Father. I and the Father are one." Now, I'd just like to mention here, Andre, if you don't mind, there's an unchangeable agenda declared in the Quran. That is world domination by Islam. This is an unchangeable agenda.
But here's the problem, Ken, on this. So, you have an unchangeable agenda, which is to spread the word of Jesus Christ. They have an unchangeable agenda to spread the word of Muhammad. So just in the same way as you're not allowed to do that in Saudi Arabia, why are we allowing them to do it in Britain?
Listen, it's amazing, you know. See if I or any other street preacher stood in Mecca,
yes,
and stood and says Jesus is the only way of salvation, we would be instantly arrested and possibly beheaded.
You would certainly be beheaded. The offence, it is a serious criminal offence to promote Christianity in Saudi Arabia. And in Mecca, my understanding is, if in Mecca you were discovered to not be a Muslim, you would be executed. The punishment is death for a non-Muslim to enter the city.
Well, no Jew is allowed into Saudi Arabia. The last Jew was there, I think, was Henry Kissinger.
Yeah.
There's no Jews are allowed to enter Saudi Arabia. That's part of the law. But the problem here, just regarding our situation here, we have to understand the reality of Jew hatred. This is the problem. Now, God has spoken about this in Genesis chapter 12, if anybody wants to read it. Genesis chapter 12. God states in Genesis chapter 12, he says to Abraham and Israel, who will come from Abraham's loins, he says, "I will bless thee, Israel, and make thy name great. And thou shalt be a blessing, and I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee." Now, according to this word, and in St. John chapter 3, Islam is under the direct curse from the true God of the Bible. God has cursed Islam. That is why there's such an evil...
I want to, Ken, I want to stop you there. Somebody's been in touch with me, and I want to... This is so obvious, I should have realised this. Somebody's got in touch to say that Jihad al-Shami, whilst it might be the legal name of this person, we don't know, but it actually translates to the Islamic warrior from Syria.
Yes, I've seen that in the news tonight.
Wow.
Now, he's just lived up to his name, jihad. I mean, it starts talking about violent jihad. There's different types of jihad. They say that,
but I mean, but if somebody called me, if I changed my name to the Christian killer from Manchester and tried to move to Saudi Arabia, right? I mean, how? You know, let's stick him on benefits. He sounds like a good bloke. I mean, it's just.
Andre, the nation, let me just say, she stammers, our Prime Minister. I'm ashamed to say this man is a disgrace to the country.
He is.
This man is the most ingenuous type of politician I've ever listened to. I'm sorry to say that, but he is the Prime Minister. That's why I'm saying it.
Yes.
He has surrendered to the ideology of Islam for votes. Because there's a big vote for the Labour comes from the Muslims.
But what happens next? I mean, we don't have religious political parties in this country that win lots of seats. I know there are Christian parties and whatever. But we now know that the Islamists, the jihadis, are going to get seats in the House of Commons. I live very close to Slough, where the jihadis are polling ahead. You know, why in a country that is officially has a secular House of Commons, it doesn't have a secular House of Lords because the bishops of the Church of England, why should we accept an Islamic delegation? I mean, if somebody happens to be a Muslim, that's very different to somebody being elected because they're a Muslim.
Well, as far as I understand, there's now 10 mayors in England, 10 Muslim mayors. The mayor of London is actually anti-Christ. This man Khan is a very dangerous man. Mr. Trump has pointed that out, and I believe he's genuine. Mr. Khan is a very dangerous man. He is in full support of Islam taking over London.
I've got to be honest with you. We should remind ourselves about what Sadiq Khan's done. And by the way, I think Christians like Ken have every right to be upset. When Ramadan clashed with Easter, under Sadiq Khan's leadership, London did not have official Easter lights and celebrations and that sort of thing that it normally has on Oxford Street. Instead, it prioritised the Islamic festival.
Yes, it's outrageous. But here's a thought for regarding our politicians. There's quite a good number of born-again Christians who are in the Commons and MPs. There's 600 MPs, I believe. Quite a good number of them are born again, but they are lacking in courage. They are scared, they're afraid to stand up and speak and call out the nation and say, listen, the reason this country is going down the tubes is because we have turned our back on our Christian foundations. We all need to repent, turn back to the Bible, turn back to Jesus, and take the Bible as the common practice for the nation. What we've got now is the LGBT queer and the absolute the foolishness of this changing your fluidity of whether you're a man or a woman. This is nonsense.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what we are, Ken, as a country. We're everything other than what we should be. A Christian, democratic, free, home of freedom of speech, defender of property rights, supporter of the family, those things that made Britain successful. I mean, remember, tiny little couple of islands in northern Europe, not the centre of everything. And yet, because of the way that we balanced democracy with rule of law, with freedom of speech, with Christianity, because of that, we became the richest country on earth. Why we don't replicate that again? We are sat down, Ken, thinking, hey, you know what? Britain, at its height during the British Empire, that was rubbish. What we need to do is follow Eritrea. Eritrea's marvellous. Yeah, let's go to Zambezi land. Zambezi, you know, if only Britain could be less like Britain and more like Zambezi land, we'd be... It's garbage, Ken, isn't it?
Andre, the MPs must waken up. The Christian MPs must realise they have got a very important part to play in the politics of this country and the future of this country. Our nation needs to repent and turn back to the Bible. That will bring freedom to the land.
Absolutely.
Christ Jesus brings peace to the human heart, and he brings freedom, honesty, and blessing to the land. We turn away from Jesus, we come under the horror of coming under Islam. Let's be warned here. The only agenda for Islam is to take over the UK and force every person in this land to submit to the false god Allah and the false prophet Muhammad. That is their agenda, and we must stand up against it in the name of Jesus and the Bible. That's my opinion as a Christian. We love them. We're not against them personally, but we're against the theology, the ideology of Islam. It is a cult of death.
OK, Ken, that is a robust view. And I have to say, I mean, I know there's a lot of Muslims that get a great deal of comfort out of their religion. And obviously, Ken, as a Christian, strongly disagrees with Islam and the Islamification of Britain. That's perfectly fine as far as I'm concerned. But obviously, he speaks for himself, not necessarily everyone else. By the way, somebody's had a go at me to say that you don't get the death penalty for entering Mecca as a Christian. It is a crime, but it's not punishable by death. But I'll take you back because you misspelt Mecca in the text. More next.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hey, I just want to remind you that, you know, sometimes we get criticised for having a go at Islam, and sometimes we get criticised for having a go at other things like the trans lobby and whatever. I just want to say one thing more than anything else. If you are a decent, hard-working taxpayer who loves this country, we are on your side. You feel absolutely free on my show, feel absolutely free on this channel to phone up and defend Islam. And you know what I'll do? I'll lead the way in that defence just to remind everybody. So, when there was the attack on the Ariana Grande concert by Salman Abedi, let me tell you a couple of things. Point number one, the mosque he worshipped in were never told he was a terrorist. They concluded he was a terrorist and they flung him out as a result. That the trade association, I think it's called the Muslim Council of Britain, I might be wrong, but the Association of British Mosques, whatever it's called, do not do funerals for terrorists. And so if you take the body of the terrorist who's been shot to the local mosque, they are not allowed to do a funeral. They say all terrorists go to hell, therefore there's no point in having an Islamic funeral for them. During the Ariana Grande concert, taxi drivers within the Muslim community ferried home for free every single young person that was stranded. Many of them worked up to 14 hours for free in order to do it. Takeaways remained open for the emergency services for as long as was required and were serving food and drink for free to anybody in an emergency service uniform, and members of the Muslim community, including one surgeon, worked for as long as 24 hours in one stint to assist the injured and the dying when they were taken to hospitals. So, you know, there is a good message that we can put out about Muslim people in this country. I get frustrated because we don't hear it enough. Anyway, James is... Oh, sorry. If you are one of those people, 0344 499 1000. I wanted to get Muslims who were good tax-paying patriots to phone up, and then I went on a rant and completely forgot to give out the number. OK, 0344 499 1000. You know what I want you to do? Put the number in your phone, and then when you want to call me, it's easy, because I know what you do. I know what you do. You sit there listening to all of this and you go, I must phone that bloke, but I haven't got the number. I can't give it out all the time, right? And some of you are listening rather than watching. James is in London. James, you're on Talk.
No, I'm not a Muslim, but I live in Tower. It's the next best thing.
Yep.
You know, I never went to Eton, I never went to Arrow.
Yep.
Well, I must probably forgotten more than those people know.
Yes.
But I'd like to give a first shout out to the policeman who shot that person.
Yes.
And what he's going through and what he's going to have to go through.
Yes.
The man deserves a sir.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm going to say, and I don't want to labour this, but unfortunately, in order to preserve evidence, the police who shoot terrorists often don't have to are not able to wash for considerable amounts of time. You know what? It's a terrorist. I'll just be graphic. Obviously, they're going to have parts of his brain on their face as a result of shooting them through the head. So that's a pretty unpleasant thing for the officers to go through, in addition to having to run up to somebody they believe was about to detonate themselves.
Yeah, well, I've never worried about that. But I always say I'm not Lineker, Dawn French, Pascal Robertson Foster on the kneecap. But what I would really like about the Muslim, I want the Muslim community to come out and condemn this.
No? Sorry,
if
Steve.
it's my religion, I'll be screaming.
Yes.
Know? And I want to dispel the myth, that 72 virgin myth. You know?
Well, let me tell you one thing. And I would suggest that 72 nuns is not going to be of much use to your average Muslim. Right, OK. All right, fine. We dumped that, apparently. All right, Grace is in London. Grace, you are on Talk.
I will die a virgin and I'm not a nun. But I'm not going to get together with any Muslims in the afterlife either.
Grace, I can't believe you've come on to talk about your virginity. You
I haven't. I was just
Okay, that's
laughing
good.
at what you-
That's good because Grace, I'm sure you're a very lovely woman, but to be honest with you, I want to talk about the terror attacks.
No, I know. I was just so entertained by what you were saying. I'm sorry. I think that it's good to point out that there are some brilliant things about many of the Muslims in this country. And I'm thinking, because you were asking earlier about what has Islam done for the UK, and I'm remembering some really interesting conversations I had with some Muslim people at university where we talked about how we share the view that science points towards the existence of a creator. And so it's really nice to have that in common.
Do you know what I always say, Grace? I always think that, and I know Ken will be reeling with this, I think in reality, Christianity, Judaism and Islam are the same religion, and actually they're fundamentally they're more like three denominations of it than they are of completely separate religions. The reason I make that point is because even if you think the Quran is garbage, even if you think that Islamic teaching's nonsense, then actually the fundamentals are still basically the same as what Christians and Jews believe.
There are definitely some important similarities, and
yes.
Some people would take the view that we worship the same God, but it really is very significant that within
but do you think? Let me ask you this. So, if I go up, so remember, most people have the religion of their parents, right? So the reason why most people in Saudi Arabia are Muslim is not because they have chosen Islam, it's because they happen to have been born in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. And it's the same with you about Christianity and the West, if you like. Well, maybe not with you, but it's similar with most people. And so, do we really believe that when you get up to the pearly gates, God goes, well, you know what, you spent your entire life in Saudi Arabia and you worshipped me, but actually you got it slightly wrong on the details, therefore you're going to hell. I mean, does that really happen?
It's a very good question, and it's something that a lot of people have debated, and theologians have struggled with this question for ages. I mean, ultimately, whatever the answer to that question is, we ourselves each have the option of choosing to turn to Jesus.
Well, no. Sorry, just to be clear, there was a question that was asked of the Catholic Church about people who had died before Jesus, which is quite an easy one. But what about when they started discovering the New World, and they discovered that there were people who were living good lives, who had lived and died, having not heard the word of Jesus Christ through no fault of their own. Yeah, and the Catholic Church concluded that actually, if you are, say, in Saudi Arabia and have never been taught the good word of Jesus Christ, you're fine.
I mean, I've heard one philosopher argue that God, though he gives people the choice, he already knows what they're going to choose, and therefore he has the people who are going to choose to follow him born into the situations in countries where they will have that knowledge, whereas people he knows are going to turn to him are born in other situations. But that's one philosopher's idea. I think it's very plausible that Jesus could reveal himself to people in their last moments.
Yes.
But I honestly don't know. There are not clear answers.
Well, but what if? I mean, here is the thing, right? You are a nice person, right? Or I assume so based on these phone calls, right? Though we don't know each other. So I think about this. Implicit within your religious view is that you believe the Sikhs, Hindus, Muslims, Jews, whatever, are all wrong, and you believe you're right. And I think it's important for a believer to believe. And therefore, why is it wrong of you then to say, I'm sorry, I don't want Britain to be a majority Muslim country because I believe Islam is garbage? I mean, why not say that?
I wouldn't say it quite like that, but I would concur with you that we should be able to disagree. Yes. And it's a mistake, I think, that some people feel that the only way you can respect people is to kind of support their views. Yes. And this is really fundamental to Christianity. In Christianity, we believe that God loved us even while we were still sinners. Therefore, we need to be able to love other people even if we disagree with them.
I mean, if you look at Ken, if you look at the caller Ken, his simple attitude is that it is grossly unfair to say to gay people that that homosexuality is right. What you need to say to them is homosexuality is wrong and repent. Right now, when people go, well, that's quite hateful, he's going, no, all I'm doing is just stating a religious fact. Right. So, and I can understand that.
Yeah, I get the point. I think my thoughts would be that it's really more important that people consider for themselves whether or not they want to turn to Jesus, because just telling them something about their relationships, why would they listen to you if they don't believe in your God in the first place? I believe that God has plans and designs for human relationships that are really good, and he has wisdom and he loves us, so the rules that he's given are good. But I'm not going to expect other people to agree with me about God having good, loving rules if they don't even believe in him in the first place. So I wouldn't focus on trying to change people's views on sexuality in their relationships, because it's more important actually just to tell them about Jesus, and then they might themselves choose to follow God's guidance about sexuality relationships. But that's not the priority.
No. Okay, Grace, I'm going to have to leave it there simply because we've got loads and loads of callers and we're heading for a break, but we'll be back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Okay, this is The Late Show with Andre Walker. Asher Gould is celebrating Yom Kippur, though probably in a less fulsome fashion than he would have done otherwise. He's back next week, obviously. Let's go to Brian in Whitley Bay. Brian, you're on Talk.
About Syria. The thing about Syria is pretty straightforward. Assad was a Shia Muslim in the minority. The Sunni Muslims were at war with Assad's regime, and obviously the Sunni Muslims are now back in charge in Syria. So the Sunni Muslims who are coming here should actually go back home. But by the way, there is still tension going on in Syria. I remember hearing on the world news a few weeks ago that I think they're known as the Alawites, which are
Alawites, which is the tribe that Assad is from, yeah.
Yeah, they were there was two young schoolgirls blasted to death by a guy on a motorcycle in Damascus a few weeks ago. Two young girls, a guy pulled up in the traffic lights, seen these two girls across the road, shot them both dead just because they were from a different...
I've got to be honest with you. I'm good friends with Ribble al-Assad, who's the cousin of Bashir al-Assad, who is a dissident who wanted to remove Bashir as head of the Alawite tribe. And the point he made is that the reason why people were backing Bashir al-Assad was because they feared the religion fervour and hatred of his opposition. So Christians backed him, whatever. But your central point, I think, is this. So there is a religious war that goes on. The dissidents in Syria come to Britain. Then they take over the country and don't go back. Or rather, they keep their British passports and they holiday back. But I'll tell you another thing about these holidays, right? A lot of these holidays are garbage. What happens is somebody gets given a council house or a council flat in East London, rents it out to a British person, and then lives back in the country they escaped from off the money. That happens all the time.
It's ridiculous. We should just repatriate them all back to Syria, right? And look, regardless of the situation, they should go back home, rebuild their own nation back up. Because obviously the Sunni Muslims, is that right? The Sunni Muslims are now in charge over there now.
Do you know what? Do you know what? The Sunni and Shia thing. Do you know what? I do know what the difference is. One of them believe that the religion should be run by the descendants of Muhammad, and the others don't. That's roughly the difference. I can never remember which is which. But either way, one of them is now in charge. But this central idea. Do you know what we need to do? We need to say, if you've come over here as a refugee or asylum seeker, once the risk or danger to you has ended, you need to go back to make way for other people who need temporary refuge.
Yeah. And like I said before, Andre, the war is now over in Syria. These people need to go back and start building their own cities or villages or whatever.
The war is over. It's time to go home. We've said that before.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Brian, in Whitley Bay, and Matt is in London.
Hello, Andre.
Come on, Matt. Here we go.
Hello, mate. I just want to make a couple of quick points, and then you tell me what you think. Is that okay?
Yes, go for it.
Thanks, buddy. Just to back your mate Ken up, England was... I'm not a religious man, but England was better when it was how it was. What I wanted to say is, with what's happened in Manchester, wouldn't you jump on it if you were the Israeli Prime Minister after Starmer announcing Palestine as a state last week?
Yeah, so effectively, sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Are you saying that that you think that Netanyahu's jumping on the bandwagon by trying to associate?
No, I'm saying, wouldn't you, if you were him after what's happened?
Do what? Would I jump on the bandwagon?
Well, after what...
Yeah, I'd blame Starmer. Yeah, well, of course I would.
Yeah, but also, if you look at the events of a couple of weeks ago in London, how do you get rid of Starmer? Surely the people have spoken. How can we do that, Starmer? How is that possible, with him?
Well, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were saying, look, it's very easy to get rid of a leader. So they were talking about Kemi Badenoch. It's very easy to get rid of a leader who's actively bad, but a leader who's just crap is quite hard to get rid of. And that's the problem.
Stupid,
that's the problem with Starmer and with Badenoch.
But he's quite stupid, isn't he?
Starmer's not stupid. He's an idiot. And I think those are two different things. I don't think he's intellectually poor, but he just doesn't know what's going on. He just doesn't get things right. To talk about this being all about refugees, it is all about refugees, but not Jewish refugees. Matt, thank you so much. Chris is in Epsom. How are you?
Hey, Andre, how you doing, mate? Listen, I can explain. You've been having a theological discussion, but I can explain it very simply.
Go for it.
All right. My girlfriend is a Muslim, an Eastern European Muslim. We've been together 7 years. The fact is, she was born into a Muslim family.
Yeah.
And she hasn't read the Quran or the Hadith, which I have. And she doesn't realise what's written in there. And that's the same for many, many, many Muslims. Good people that don't understand what's in the Quran and in the Hadiths, and the fact that people like the Muslim Brotherhood, who have had their plan of taking over the West and actually creating a caliphate, and this is what our politicians don't understand. The people that are coming here, all right, fighting-age males, we need to detain them and then deport them. We are heading for, if we don't, we're heading for a religious war in this country.
Yes. Yes, well, assuming it's not here at the moment, which it is at least to a certain extent. By the way, somebody's got in touch with us about the fact that there are arrests all the time for Islamic fascists, and we like to pretend that it's mental health issues. We like to pretend that it's just an issue of a firearm or whatever, and I worry greatly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But that happens all over Europe, all over the West at the moment, and in America. Everybody that does anything, they have a mental disease. Listen, the mental disease, right, is following a death cult. We Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, Sikhs, we treasure life. We choose life. In the Bible it says, I give you the choice to choose life. We choose life. They choose death.
We choose life just like Ewan McGregor did. Thank you so much, Chris. By the way, there is one thing in the Quran which is definitely true, where it says all bad people, bad people get sent to fire, where they will gnash their teeth and roll round